we're going to do a little bit of old-fashioned new critical poem explication. What I've got here is The Death of the Ball Turret Gunner by Randell, Jarrell. And one of the overarching images of this poem is a image of a baby and of the feelings associated with a womb. So we're going to look at the way that these different images present this sort of tension within that overarching image. So I'll read the whole thing for you. From my mother's sleep I fell into the state, and I hunched in its belly till my wet fur froze. 6 miles from earth, loosed from the dream of life, I woke to black flak and the nightmare fighters. When I died they washed me out of the turret with a hose. So, like I said, we're looking for images of birth and of the womb. So we get our first one right here in my mother's sleep, referring to, it brings up these feelings of safety and protection. And then we've got, obviously, the mother and the implied relationship between the mother and the baby. And then we've got fell, which implies that he had no control. But we have another birth image here, such as the baby dropping in the womb. And then it's interesting because it says, I fell into the state, and state, capitalized, makes it a proper noun and brings in these ideas of bureaucracy and government. And also, something a new critic might note is because it's capitalized like that, it makes it sort of loom visually in the line and kind of makes it a bit intimidating and scary. So it definitely, just that one little thing gives us this intimidation. And but he fell into the state, falling from one womb into another type of thing. So, and I hunched in its belly till my wet fur froze is the second line, and here we have the belly, the womb, but at this time it's the belly of the plane. A ball turret in a plane is like the place where the guns are. So he was a gunner, right? And so we've got its belly contrasting with my mother's sleep. And in its belly, he's hunched. He's not, he's fetal, but without comfort. And he's self-protective. So that's a sharp contrast there. And then we've got till my wet fur froze. Wet fur can bring to mind, or it could literally be the inside of his aviator jacket, which is cold. But it also implies like a small baby or an animal that's just been born. Possibly it could be premature. And usually fur is something that keeps you warm, but here it's something that's making you even colder. So we've got that sort of tension. And then in the third line, 6 miles from earth, loosed from the dream of life, all of a sudden, well, literally the plane is very high in the air and he feels separated from earth and all of his memories, but there's also this spatial reverse from its belly, which is something that you'd think of like down, to 6 miles from earth, which is obviously up in the air. And then we've got loosed right here, and loosed, it could mean like free from something, but because of the rest of the images of the poem, it sort of feels like cut off, like an umbilical cord that's been severed. So we've got that. And then the third line, I woke to black flak and the nightmare fighters, is like pretty self-explanatory. He's being fired at. We've got this paradox of waking into a dream. And then the last line, when I died they washed me out of the turret with a hose. So literally, the literal meaning is that he was shot to pieces, and when the plane landed they cleaned it out. But we've got this sort of shock of when I died, because, I mean, somebody who has died is speaking to us, and that's, you know, not normal. They represents the state. And then this whole thing sort of has, now we've got like this abortion image of life prematurely interrupted and ended. And so that's scary, and that's got a lot of implications on the rest of the poem. Yeah, so there we have it, the womb and birth images in The Death of the Ball Turret Gunner by Randell, Jarrell.